Radio Row in Indianapolis. It's Combine time as teams look for their next superstar. Some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment will be right here. Get ready for the 2024 draft, baby. It's the Jake Asman Show.
We continue right here live from the Combine in Indy, and joining us right now, Jet fans, is someone that if you've followed the Jets over the last, 14 years, you have seen her all over SNY covering the team. The great Jeane Coakley joins us now. Jeane, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, and now I finally get to be on your show, so now I'm super excited.
Now, you've been around this team for so long. I'm trying to think back of just like in my head, the amount of coaches and GMs you cover, because you got here year 2 of Rex, like second straight year to the championship game. So you did Rex. Then after that, you did
Todd
Bowles.
Yep.
Then 2 years of Gase.
Yep.
And now Robert Salah. And then GM-wise, you had the end of Tannenbaum.
Yep.
Then you went to Izzik for 2. McCagnon and Douglas.
Yep.
A lot of coaches and GMs you've covered.
You're good. You kept them all in order, too. Good for you. Yes, I've got them all.
Now, we're taping this after you spoke with Joe Douglas earlier today. A lot of people were saying at his normal press conference, he was somber, this and that. You got a chance to speak to him one-on-one. You guys have a relationship for a while now. What were some of the big takeaways from your conversation with Joe?
I think the thing I took away from the press conference first was the AVT, that he's going to be in his first, they're going to be in a position the entire year, not moving around. Then I asked him, I'm like, well, whose decision was that? Is that something the organization decides? Do you ask AVT? And so we said, AVT will definitely have input. The coaches will, and they just want to keep him healthy. And I think keeping him in the one spot, that's what they're going to do with that.
Did he indicate or explain why they think he got hurt moving around? Because I don't know, an Achilles tendon, if he's in a guard stance or a tackle stance, if that tendon's going to go, it's going to go. So it just seems weird. They're like, well, he got hurt because he was playing different positions.
They didn't let on, I don't think. I just think they know how good AVT can be.
Right.
So at this point, let's just put him in a spot and work around him, because they have him. I mean, they're going to have to find 3 different new guys to that O-line, because they got AVT. Let's find the spot he wants to be at. He's comfortable, and let's leave him there.
What did you think of the fact that they're not necessarily going to make a decision on where AVT's playing just yet? How much of that is, hey, well, we don't want to telegraph. We're on the clock at pick 10. Well, the Jets haven't, they haven't gotten their tackle yet. Well, the Jets could be like, whoa, AVT is our tackle. What are you talking about? It kind of maybe protects them big picture from getting jumped like what maybe happened last year.
Yeah, I think that's exactly that's part of the reason. I think they also need to talk to AVT, feel he's more comfortable, talk to the coaches, see what they have. And like you said, they could go out and get a tackle and free agent.
Sure.
They could do that. And let's keep it, they like to keep it close to the vest until it comes out, so they don't get jumped like happened last year.
100%. Now they have money to spend in free agency. They obviously have the 10th pick that we just alluded to. You were talking to Joe earlier about the offensive line. He fielded a bunch of questions on that. Should a Jet fan be feeling confident that Joe, who's been here for a while now, could finally get this offensive line right?
I think he knows he has to. I think there's no questions. One of the questions I actually asked Joe was, you have a lot of holes on the offensive line. You have the combine right this week. You have free agency coming up. You have the draft. How do you fill those holes? Is it through free agency? Is it through the draft? He's like, we got to do it all. It's everything. We look at free agents. We look at the draft. We look, okay, this free agent's coming in to fill this hole. Let's see the draft. And so he's like, it's a lot to go in, but Joe knows this is key. I mean, fixing this O-line is the most important thing they have to do this offseason. And he's an O-lineman.
Yes.
So he came into here saying that I am going to fix the O-line. And it's yet with injuries and different moves and stuff that they know they have to do it.
When you kind of think back to his time here, it's not like they haven't tried. It's just, sometimes it's bad luck with AVT. Mekhi Becton doesn't work out. I mean, even Laken Tomlinson, I don't think there was a Jet fan that ever thought, well, it's a bad signing. They signed the guy who was in the Pro Bowl the previous year in the same exact offensive scheme and allowed him to play the same exact position. And it didn't work.
And that's just it. It just hasn't worked out. I mean, in Laken's defense, he did play every snap. He was durable. I mean,
he's the only guy that actually played.
That's what I was going to say. Look at the injuries that happened. But if you also look at these younger guys now, I think Joe Tippmann, he did a nice job. I mean, who's to say he's going to play center? Going into the season, they could move him over. I think Carter Warden, could be, a guy who can build in this program. But as far as they have to get this offensive line settled.
What'd you make of, I don't think Jet fans are shocked by this, but Douglas saying publicly they gave Zach Wilson's agent permission to seek a trade?
They have to. I mean, that relationship ended last season after the Miami game when he left. I don't think we'll ever see, I mean, we weren't going to see Zach Wilson again in a Jets uniform. It didn't work out, as we talked about not working out. And I think for both parties getting away and being what they need to do. I don't know how much they're going to get for Zach Wilson. I mean, but letting him be able to go and see other water, that's what they need to do because they can't be together.
Sure. What was your experience like covering Zach? Obviously, you have a very unique perspective being in the locker room, interviewing him from right when he was drafted to obviously what's happened now. What has been some of your experiences being in there, getting to know him a little bit?
Honestly, Jake, he grew. You could see the maturity. I mean, he came in his rookie year, a young kid, went to a school where, everything kind of went his way. And I can't imagine. I've never been in a situation where I was drafted number 2, going to New York, playing quarterback. But I will tell you this, the last sit down I did with him was December, this past December. The maturity and what I've seen from him was remarkable. Like everything he has been through, everything, and a lot of it was on him. I'm not saying that he was, but everything that he went through, the way he handled himself when we were talking, I was asking questions,
Sure.
He answered it. He was respectful. I mean, he was honest with me. I could actually see the growth. And I have told him after, I'm like, wow, like I was really impressed with how he handled everything and how we had our interview from the first interview I ever did his rookie year to now. Everything he's been through, the growth and the maturity. And I really enjoyed it, to be honest with you.
It's just a shame it hasn't worked out because he seems like a nice kid, and I get accused on here of being like a Zach Wilson hater. And it's not being a hater. It's just I'm not going to blindly defend someone he hasn't played well enough. Like
he will say that. He said that I didn't play well enough. I didn't play well enough, and that's what it is. He just didn't play well, and whose fault? I mean, you can blame everybody, but at the end of the day, he didn't play well, didn't work out. You move on.
What did you make of Mecole Hardman's comments, Jeane? I mean, you got to know him a little bit when he was briefly with the Jets, and obviously Joe Douglas. I guess the key thing that he said when being asked about Mecole's comments was, that's certainly something that we're going to look into in regards to did Mecole and the Chiefs tamper to get him back to Kansas City?
I liked him. He was always great with me. I liked when we did interviews. I thought he was a good kid. It just didn't work out.
Yep.
He didn't. Xavier Gibson came in, didn't work out. Again, didn't work out. I'm not sure you need to go on a podcast or you need to talk about it. I mean,
sounds like sour grapes.
It does. It sounds like a disgruntled employee. I mean, it just
like Thomas Morstead said.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it just sounded like someone who, like sour grapes. Didn't you don't need to say it. You just won the Super Bowl. You got away from the situation. Just move on from the situation.
Yep.
Because now come on.
It's so tough because, of course, and this being around the Jets, of course, the guy that the Jets traded scores the game-winning touchdown to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, come on. That was meant to happen, right? I mean,
of course.
You can't make it up. It's so typical.
It's unbelievable. Jeane Coakley joining us from SNY as we talk about the state of the Jets. One of the things Joe Douglas said about Aaron Rodgers is he can't wait to get Aaron back in the building. I know he was there towards the end of the regular season. What was year one like covering Aaron Rodgers? What were your expectations coming in and then getting to know him? What did you learn being around him?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we weren't around him that much because 4 plays in, it didn't work out. He's going to be a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Watching him during training camp, the way he performs on the field, I mean, he's good. He's great.
And you covered Peyton Manning, so you've seen some great quarterbacks.
I did. I got to cover Peyton Manning. Just the way they work differently. I mean, there's just something different about these type of athletes. It's a different level. And just the way Aaron was able to bring this team together in the offseason and training camp, and there's so much potential. I would love to see him and Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. I just, like I said, I didn't get to spend much time with him. Every time I had an interaction with him, he was always very cordial. You can tell he loves the game of football. He wanted to be out there with his teammates. He wanted to do what he could possibly do for this Jets team. It's just 4 plays in.
Terrible. It's still hard to fathom it happen.
It's crazy, right? Someone said the other day or said something to them. I'm like, I still am like, wait, did that really happen?
Only the
Was
Jets.
Aaron Rodgers really on the Jets team? Did he really run out in the tunnel? Did he really have a uniform? Like that was a dream, right?
It's
like Zach Wilson was the quarterback, right?
It's hard to believe.
It's crazy.
I remember the interview you did with him the day of his press conference. It was a one-on-one, and he looked into the camera. And I think you asked him his message to Jet fans. Yeah. We used that clip in our intro for months after that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think there'll be excitement again for this team, but I feel like the fan base is not going to be as hyped up as they were a year ago because how could you? And
I was going to say you can't be.
And like, I also just get the sense that like we're at a point now as Jet fans where it's like, show us. Like, we're tired of hearing how good this team's going to be. I almost wonder if it's better that they're kind of going to be flying under the radar a lot more as under the radar as you can be with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, because it just feels like after what happened this year, this is a fan base that is just broken inside after what occurred.
And again, this is my 15th season. I was in Indianapolis for 4 years. I got to see them win the Super Bowl. I've got to cover a team that the worst season they were 10-6. And then you see what the Detroit Lions did. And you heard the fans and you see the fans. And you're like, Jets fans, you got it. Like, my heart just breaks for these Jets fans because they just want it so bad. And again, I always say this too, like, so do the players, so do the coaches. Like, it's just a matter of getting it all on the same page at the same time.
I'm fascinated by your job, Jeane, because, when you cover a winning team, every player or coach, they're happy to talk after a game. You've been covering the Jets for a while. They haven't had a winning season in 8 years, so you're usually going to locker rooms after a loss, of course. What's the challenges to try and get someone to talk after a very difficult loss like that?
Well, it's funny because I feel like I became a better reporter when you cover a team that doesn't win a lot, because it's very easy to ask questions to guys who win. It's very easy. I mean, it's awesome. It's great. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's not easy, especially after the third, fourth loss, tough losses. But I have so much respect for the guys who do talk. It's easy to talk after a win. The CJ Mosleys, the Quinnen Williams, and this is a great group of guys. The Breece Halls, the Garrett Wilsons. I mean, I could name tons of guys. When they come out and they're honest with you and they ask the question, when I ask them the questions and they answer. I mean, there's been a couple times where guys just don't want to talk and are just not very nice. But at the same time, they just got off the field and played a really hard game. I'm just trying to do my job. They're just doing their job. But like I said, I have so much respect for the guys, and this is a great locker room. I like I said, if I had, hey, CJ, do you mind if I go? No problem, Jeane. And he's very honest with me. He's like, I love CJ Mosley. Like I said, Quinnen Williams is great.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson will always talk Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. I mean, I'm going through the locker room right now of the guys who.
It's a very likable team.
It's an unbelievably likable team, and that's why your heart just broke because, you root for them. You want them to win. They work hard. They're a good group of guys. They're guys that you're like, I want my son to grow up to be like that. They're great role models. It's just. And it will happen. I know it will. It will. It will, Jets fans. I promise you.
From your lips to God's ears today. Robert Salah, your experience, obviously getting to know him, covering him, and he's certainly under the microscope this offseason.
Yeah.
The Athletic story came out, didn't paint him in the best light, of course. Just your thoughts on where he's at as a coach, entering a do or die potentially year 4.
Listen, he's in year 4, and at the end of the day, you have to what? You have to win. It's a win now.
Your husband's a coach, so you get it.
100%. And I see the work that coaches put in, and I see it. But unfortunately, winning, and pressure's on. And Salah is the guys love him. He does what he has to do. He has to find. I mean, unfortunately, he's lost a lot of some coaches that have gone other places for, promotions and stuff. So put that together. But he's got Ulbrich is fantastic. He's got a great defense. You got Aaron's going to come back. I think that's going to make a huge difference in this offense, obviously. So I think this is it. And again, when Joe Douglas said, he's like, I like the feeling of going into this season. I like the pressure. I like that, it's not too stressful. We're prepared for this. They have it on their shoulders. It's win or go home, pretty much. Win or you're done.
It's an interesting point you bring up, and I'm curious because you've been around this team forever. Do the Jets get fairly covered? Like, obviously, they haven't won. You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt until you win. But it does feel like, as bad as things were last year, at times it's like, the Jets actually won 7 games, and no one's celebrating 7-10. But it's almost like they're not the Panthers. They didn't go 2-15. You had the Bucs won 7 games before Tom got there.
True, but at the same time, when you came into the season the way you did,
sure.
I mean, we talked about all offseason. You win the offseason. Aaron Rodgers was coming in. Hard Knocks. This is great. Their defense was, unbelievable. They finally got their quarterback. Unfortunately, all went down the drain 4 plays in.
Right.
So, I mean, they were supposed to be. The Panthers weren't supposed to be that good.
I guess the question is, does it feel worse than it actually is as far as like with a good offseason and the biggest thing, Aaron Rodgers being healthy, can they actually be the team that a lot of people thought they could have been this season?
I do. I do think Aaron Rodgers helped immensely, but they also need to fix the O-line, but they need to fix the O-line last year.
Right.
So it's not, they need to get that guy to go up with, next to Garrett Wilson. They need that number to complement Garrett Wilson. They got holes they've got a lot of holes to fill. But you're right, they won 7 games. And I think this year, a healthy Aaron Rodgers, a good QB number 2,
Please.
maybe that QB 3 who they are going to bring in there. I think, and they're going to fly in under the radar, I think, this year because they're the Jets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think they prefer that than, damn, this is a good team. The Jets are going to be a good team. Then let them just be the Jets, and we'll show you who the Jets are.
I think that's the better mentality for this group to have.
100%.
In your career covering the Jets, you can't say anyone on the current team, so we'll narrow it down a little bit. Who are some of your favorite players that you got a chance to interview? Because the Jets, obviously with Rex, especially when they were winning, they had a lot of great personalities on the team, and some of them you now work with at SNY, like Willie Colon and Bart Scott.
Yeah, well, those two right there. Like one of my, but do you want to know something funny? So today, Chris Jenkins Jr. was on the podium. I loved his father. Chris was
He
awesome.
was such a good player.
Such a great player. And it was so much. I actually he did a little TV stuff. Oh my gosh, he was a spitting image of his dad. Like he sounded like him. 20 years from now or 10 years from now, you watch, that man's going to be, he'd be sitting on your podcast doing.
I love it.
He's fantastic. He was one of my favorites. Oh, I have so many favorites. Justin Keller.
Yes, great one.
Oh, he was great. Mark Sanchez was fantastic. Nick Mangold, DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Gosh, I'm going around the locker room right now. Old school.
David Harris.
Oh, David Harris was awesome. Yes, he was.
He was the one of the first autographs I ever got.
Really?
I ran into him and a couple of teammates right after the Jets got Favre, August of 2008 on Long Island, right near Hofstra, and at Houston to the Roosevelt Field Mall. And he signed like a waiter's note card for me. And he couldn't have been nicer. So
do you still have it?
I still have it. My dad has it framed somewhere in his house.
Have you ever met David Harris?
Met him. I don't think I've met him. I've never met him like one-on-one like this. I've been in like a media scrum where he's been interviewed before. He's
fantastic.
Yep.
Just a down-to-earth, great guy. Reminds me a little of like Quincy Williams, except Quincy has more of a personality, but just like who they are, like they're just down-to-earth, salt-of-the-earth type of guys.
Who is the funniest coach that you covered?
Come on, Rex Ryan.
It's Rex, right?
It doesn't even stand a chance.
Do you have a Rex? Everyone, I always ask people that are connected to the Rex era for their favorite Rex story. Do you have a Rex story that comes to mind from covering them?
I have 2 actually. So I get to interview the head coach every Friday. I get 3 questions with them going in. So I've done it with every single coach. I always stood on the right side with Rex. And one time I accidentally stood on the left side, not even knowing it was a thing. Well, they lost that week. He blamed me. And so every single time he was like, you're to be there. This is where we're going to say. It was great. And then he wrote his book. And in the book he wrote, thanks for always standing on the left side.
That's
but
awesome.
It was like, they're so superstitious. And then another time at training camp. So he is an identical twin, obviously. Well, my sisters, I have identical twin sisters.
You're a triplet?
No. So my sisters are identical
I got
twins.
you.
No. So they were at one of my twin sisters at camp with me. And so they met. And they were just started to talk about, these singlets don't understand like what it's like to have twins. And they would like switch IDs, Rex and Rob, and my sisters do it. And it was just like, you people are so, I always remember I said to him, like, you guys are just weird. Like twins are just weird. And just to hear the two, my sister and him talking about being a twin and like, it was just a really fun interaction that I got to. It was weird. They're weird, but it was fun to watch.
That's great. In my lifetime as a Jet fan, the best day of my life as a Jet fan is January 16th, 2011. Jets go into Foxborough and they beat the Patriots. To this day, it's still their last playoff win. You're in the locker room after that.
Was that the can't wait game?
That's the can't wait game.
Okay.
What do you remember covering that particular game? Because for many of my listeners, that's the best moment we've had in our lifetime as Jet fans.
Okay, so I have a funny story with that. So I get an interview on the field when the team wins. So around the fourth quarter, like within like 5 minutes left, like if it looks like they're going to win, I get on the field. So I'm on the field because obviously they're going to win. And Bart Scott is going crazy, like running up and down the field, yelling at the mascot, like yelling at the fans, like crazy. Now I had, I have to tell Jared, the PR guy, who or Megan who I want after, and I wanted Braylon Edwards because he had just scored. And then so Sal Pal was there and he wanted Braylon Edwards. I'm like, no, Jeane gets Braylon. I'm like, you should get Bart. He's crazy.
Wow. You are the reason
wait.
the can't wait interview happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a great story.
And then Braylon ran and did his backflip and Braylon was great too. I mean, I wouldn't have Sal and him were just meant to do. And it's funny because I did a thing with both Bart and Sal because I love Sal. He's awesome and Bart's great. But I'm like, I should get credit for that because I said, you should get Bart. He's awesome. He's great. Because I'm getting Braylon.
Wow. Now think about what that has done for Bart's career now in media.
I think Bart was already.
You're right. But that GIF doesn't exist without you that everyone uses in tweets and Instagram posts and all that.
That's what I'm saying. Can't wait.
That is awesome.
Isn't that funny though?
That is
a
great
crazy
story.
Though. Bart was like, I remember I can see him like yelling at the mask. I'm like, what is he doing?
That's as good as it gets today.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for doing this. I know you got a flight to catch in a couple hours, so I appreciate you coming on. We definitely got to get you on again when the Jets make some moves
Thank
and
you.
maybe there's some optimism. The vibes are restored.
Stay positive, Jets fan. And I know you don't like hearing this, but you got some great guys on that team. Like you have great foundation and just they're good kids. And I can say they're kids because I could have birthed them.
Respect. She's today, Jeane Coakley. My name is Jake Asman. Jet fans, you guys are great. Once again, we, of course, are presented by Roan Apparel. Make sure you use promo code Asman and sign up. Purchase the commuter line shirts. Everything I wear on camera this week is all from Roan. Once again, promo code Asman. Get yourself a discount at roan.com. Thanks again to Jeane. Quick break, and we're back with more. It's the Jake Asman Show. Coverage continues in Indy right after this.